It's Thursday, May 7th, 2026. Iran out, aliens, and looksmaxxing all the way to prison. Next on the AM Update. Big news on Iran this morning, and here it is. I have no idea. I just... Back and forth and up and down and left and right we go, over and over and over again. Started the other night with a kind of nondescript yet out of nowhere post from President Trump, which is another day that ends in Y. He said on Truth Social, quote, based on the request of Pakistan and other countries, the tremendous military success that we have had during the campaign against the country of Iran, and additionally the fact that great progress has been made towards a complete and final agreement with representatives of Iran, we have mutually agreed that while the blockade will remain in full force and effect, Project Freedom, the movement of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, will be paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement can be finalized and signed. I mean, it's a humanitarian project. I mean, his Secretary of State, President Trump himself, said that in the 48 hours that Project Freedom actually lasted. It's a humanitarian project. Don't know why that has anything to do with whether or not a deal can be made with Iran or whether or not one will actually happen. We saw headlines mid-morning yesterday from Axios saying that a deal between the United States and Iran is as close as it ever has been during the ceasefire. A one-page deal at that, the topics of which, the provisions of which, still very much up in the air. President Trump posted on Truth Social, assuming Iran agrees to what has been agreed to, which is perhaps a big assumption, the already legendary Epic Fury will be at an end. The highly effective blockade will be at an end, but if they don't come to a deal, we'll continue to drop bombs. So, same as it ever was, it seems like, when it comes to Iran. Here he is in the Oval Office just yesterday.
That has refused to submit. You seem optimistic now that you may be closer to a deal. What's different about this moment now than in other moments where a deal has seemed close?
Well, why do you say they refused to submit? You don't know that. You don't know what's going on.
They were firing on U.S. ships a few days ago.
Yeah, no, a few days ago is a long time ago. You know, in the world of war, a few days ago. No, they want to make a deal badly. And we'll see if we get there. If we get there, they can't have nuclear weapons. You know, it's very simple. But
he is once again reiterating no nuclear weapons for Iran. Basically the same thing we've heard every single day for the last going on over 2 months now. At this point, my prayer is just peace and human flourishing together. Meanwhile, Benjamin Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, announced that the Defense Minister Israel Katz is striking Beirut, and the commander of the Radwan force, which he says is responsible for the terroristic attacks of Israeli civilians. Also, the United States, via CENTCOM, announcing yesterday, military fired on an Iranian oil tanker as President Trump sought to pressure Tehran. Fighter jets shot out the rudder of the tanker in the Gulf of Oman as it tried to breach the American blockade of Iran's ports. So, closer to peace than we have been at any point during the ceasefire. Maybe not so much. Let's go to this. In Los Angeles, federal and local law enforcement conducted a massive drug raid at the well-known MacArthur Park in Los Angeles Wednesday afternoon, seizing more than $10 million worth of fentanyl. The raid is spearheaded by the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency and also involves Los Angeles police. 17 people arrested as a part of the raid. The raid is part of the Department of Justice's Free MacArthur Park operation, which aims to address the park's open-air drug market. Some reports say that dozens, if not more, federal agents and local agents were on scene during that massive raid in Los Angeles. Border Czar Tom Homan spoke recently to CBS News, giving an update on how the battle to maintain the country's borders is actually going.
So let's remember why we're here. 4 years of an open border. Over 10 million illegal aliens that we know of came to the border. Millions were released in this country, illegally, in my opinion, against established, immigration law. 4 years of historic, never seen before numbers. We had historic illegal immigration crisis for 4 years. So what's required now? An historic mass deportation to deal with these people who enter this country illegally, many released in this country illegally, many who have no case in this country to be here.
Border Czar Tom Homan, meanwhile, in New York. A group of pro-Hamas orcs descended upon a well-known Manhattan synagogue and forced a Jewish daycare to close early. They brandished the Hezbollah flag and, of course, supporters of Hamas as well. Footage from the protests shows New York City police officers shoving the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic group back to create a street-wide separation between the two groups. The group waving the Palestinian flags, the pro-Hamas flags, and wearing keffiyehs numbered roughly 100 and could be heard repeatedly shouting, "Israel should not exist." What do they actually mean by that? When you see and hear pro-Hamas orcs waving flags of foreign countries, foreign territories, Palestine is not a country. It doesn't even exist, actually. But waving flags of foreign forces and shouting, "Israel should not exist." What do they actually mean by that? And I think you should listen to me very carefully here. Do they mean that there should be a genocide, that every single Israeli, every single Jew in that territory should be killed? Yeah, that's what they mean. Yeah, they mean Israel should not exist, which means in the original Latin, Israel should not exist. Here's Mayor Zohran Mamdani asked why a recent Economic Development Corporation page on the website was removed by the city of New York.
EDC recently removed a page promoting Israeli businesses. I said the Economic Development Corporation recently removed a page promoting Israeli businesses in New York City. I'm wondering, why did that occur? And I'm wondering, does that have to do with your sort of expressed views about Israel, the rights of Palestinians? And furthermore, does this suggest any sort of shift in the city's treatment of Israeli businesses or Israeli companies in the city?
I can get back to you on the specific.
Okay. Hey, why was a page on the city's website promoting Israeli-owned or Jewish-owned businesses, why was that removed? I have no idea. Get back to you on that, says Zohran Mamdani. Let's go to this. Let's talk aliens for a little bit. Sean Hannity interviewed FBI Director Kash Patel. The duo talked about the aforementioned topic of unidentified aerial phenomenon, among other things.
Do you think we've ever recovered alien forms?
I don't have any information on specific.
So, Donald Trump is kind of verbose. He talks a lot.
I'm going to let you tell him that.
I tell him anything I want. I have no hesitation. But he clams up on this issue, and I don't know why.
Isn't that interesting? Sean Hannity interviewing the FBI Director Kash Patel. Sean Hannity, maybe more than any other person, at least in media, having a good relationship with President Trump, knows President Trump, saying that out in the open on the issue of UAPs, aliens, what have you, gets all clammy, clams up. I'll tell you in a moment. The Daily Mail gave up the game here when it comes to UAPs and aliens. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. Before we listen to Barack Obama, former president, who was also asked by CBS's Stephen Colbert about this very topic.
Earlier this year, you said of aliens,
yes,
quote, "They're real, but I haven't seen them." Then you tried to walk it back the next day. No one believed you, right? Because that first one had the ring of truth. It was just a guy finally let it out. And then the next day you're like, well, what I meant was, I'm sure that somewhere out there, given the infinite, nature of the universe and no one buys that. Just come clean, man. You don't want to tarnish a reputation for just frankness and honesty at this point of your career.
Oh, Lord.
Sir, at long last, won't you just...
I thought it was so obvious what I meant.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Oh, it was obvious what you meant. And we all got the message.
Here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
For those of you who still think that, we've got little green men underground somewhere.
Yeah.
One of the things you learn as president is government is terrible at keeping secrets. This idea of conspiracy theories, if there were aliens or alien spaceships or anything under the control of the United States government that we knew about, seen, photographs, what have you, I promise you, some guy guarding the installation would have taken a selfie with one of the aliens and sent it to his girlfriend to impress him. It would leak.
Or there'd be
So there's former President Barack Obama saying, no way, we've not made contacts with aliens. We don't have alien tech. You know, when I heard that clip, I immediately thought, given the source, I'm starting to think that we have alien tech and we are actually hiding little green men underground. And then I saw this headline from the Daily Mail giving up the jig on this whole topic about UAPs and aliens, which I have long maintained is just a new facade of the old paganism, trying to communicate this time with demons. Here's the Daily Mail's headline. UFO revelation. Religious leaders told, prepare now for UFO disclosure to unleash Bible-changing revelations. That's the whole game, isn't it? Bible-changing revelations. What's the premise there? The Word of God can be changed by aliens, supposed aliens. And this is all coming about right about the time we're reaching what we think, at least to this point, is the zenith of AI, generative AI visualizations of various things. Isn't that interesting? Word of God cannot be changed. Pixels on the screen can be. And a lot of people can be deluded into thinking they're communicating with little green men when in fact they might be communicating with demons. When we come back, can you look smacks your way right to prison? We'll talk about that. Also, a legend in the news industry passing away yesterday. That and more coming up next. Divisive male beauty influencer Clavicular interrupted the quote-unquote peace and dignity of the Florida Everglades, I should say, by allegedly firing shots at a dead alligator. In violation of state laws, Clavicular, the quote-unquote looksmaxxing figure, whose real name is Braden, of course his name is Braden Eric Peters, and two others are facing charges in Miami-Dade in connection to footage of them opening fire. The incident happened March 26th when Peters and two others did unlawfully and knowingly discharge a firearm in a public space at the Francis Taylor Everglades in an act that was against the peace and dignity of the state of Florida. It's according to court documents. Clavicular, along with a couple of other streamers, will face the same single charge. Looksmaxxing. What is that? It's very sad. Clavicular, this young Gen Z streamer, is not a victim, but he is deluded, and he needs Jesus very badly. But essentially, he lives to basically transform himself to some sort of artificial and very transient, I might add, in my estimation, artificial and transient standard of good looks. That's what looksmaxxing is, and he lives. He streams to look as good in his mind as he possibly can. And now he might have legal problems in the state of Florida for shooting a dead alligator. So can you looksmax your way to prison or jail? We will find out. Ted Turner, high-flying media tycoon, entrepreneur, philanthropist who founded CNN and revolutionized American cable, died Wednesday according to his private holding company, 87 years old. In his prime, Turner was one of the kings of broadcasting, a brash but savvy visionary. He turned the Turner broadcasting system into a behemoth, establishing the superstation concept and launching channels like TBS, TNT, Cartoon Network, and Turner Classic Movies. He transformed culture and politics with cable news network, CNN, of course, shell of what his vision is now. It was the first 24-hour news channel in the country. Ted Turner, dead at the age of 87. Go back to the White House earlier this week. Comments from Marco Rubio asked specifically what his vision for the future of America is. Listen to this.
For America at a time such as this.
My hope for America?
And how do you personally deal with that?
Yeah, look, I mean, my hope for America is what it's always been. I think it's the hope I hope we all share. We want it to continue to be the place where anyone from anywhere can achieve anything. where you're not limited by the circumstances of your birth, by the color of your skin, by your ethnicity, but frankly, it's a place where you are able to overcome challenges and achieve your full potential. I think that should be the goal of every country in the world, frankly, but I think in the U.S., we're not perfect. Our history is not one of perfection, but it's still better than anybody else's history, and ours is a story of perpetual improvement. Each generation has left the next generation of Americans freer, more prosperous, safer, and that is our goal as well. But it is a unique and exceptional country, and as we come upon this 250-year anniversary, I think we have a lot to learn and be proud of in our history. It is one of perpetual and continuous improvement, where each generation has done its part to bring us closer to fulfilling the vision that the founders of this country had upon its founding. So
that's a heck of a 45-second answer there from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Couldn't have said it any better myself. Could not have said it better myself. That is that's an ideal. That's something to try to live up to. We're not perfect. And you heard Marco Rubio say there, that's something that I need to keep reminding myself, reminding everyone within the sound of my voice when appropriate, that ultimately, yes, we are a country, we are a people group, we are a distinct nation, but as a distinct nation made up of imperfect people trying to live up to that ideal, even 250 years on. Great reminder there from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Let's get to this. It's our poll of the week. I asked you, will the latest would-be Trump assassin, Cole Allen, actually face life in prison? That's the max sentence he's facing currently if he is convicted. Yes, no, yes, but later pardoned. Let's get to your responses first before I read the results of the poll of the week. Exponentially, Charles says, I want to say yes, but between this judge and waiting for someone to be held accountable for something, I doubt it. That's, I think, Zia Faruqui, the Pakistani-American judge who apologized to Cole Allen earlier this week. Exponentially, Charles says, probably no. No justice, at least no max sentence for Cole Allen. James says, grandmas who prayed outside abortion clinics will spend more time in jail than him. Oh, my goodness. I was trying not to get depressed this morning, but James, you brought us all down. But you're probably right. Dalton says he won't even stand trial by reason of insanity. Man alive, you guys are bringing me down really fast. Trempet says, unless there's a change in judge, I fully expect him to have his own private butler, chef, and driver for a year at minimum security facilities before he is released and held on the street orcs as a true citizen who tried to save our democracy. One after another, these responses are getting progressively worse. Auburn says, that's a very good question. The optimist in me and the pessimist in me are in a mighty battle with the realist in me. I'm tired. That's a little less depressing, but still depressing nonetheless. Tom says, I wish I could vote yes. I'm going to vote no. I'm expecting a mistrial in this case. As it's been noted numerous times, our social compact is broken. Bam says he'll get a 10-year or something out of 8 or less. Jim says no, he'll do 5 years tops. Michigan Progressive Communist Watch says no sound on the podcast right now. How can there be no sound on the podcast? You're listening as it comes out of your speaker. I don't understand. Here's the actual results. No won 75.3%. First place, no. The latest would-be Trump assassin Cole Allen will not actually face life in prison. In second place, yes, he will face life in prison, but he will be pardoned at a later date. And only 10.4, that was 14.3% who said yes, but pardoned later. And yes is in last place. True justice, the fullness of justice, at least in this case, only 10.4% of respondents say that the latest would-be Trump assassin will face the maximum sentence. Happy Thursday morning to you. Tomorrow morning is Ask or Tell Me Anything. You can tell me any news story you think needs covered that I didn't get to this week on the AM Update. Or you can ask me any question. Ask or Tell Me Anything. Look for the pinned post. Make your submissions there at Real AM Update on X. Hope you have a wonderful Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.